Thank you for being an incredible supporter of the 10X podcast group, the home of the skillful art of manipulation. We're thrilled to have you as part of our growing community. If you haven't already, we'd love for you to follow us on your favorite podcast platform. Your likes and comments mean the world to us and help us reach a wider audience with our stories. Plus, with new episodes released every day, your feedback plays a vital role in shaping what we create. It truly makes a difference. Your loyalty and enthusiasm fuel our passion for crafting gripping tales, and we're so grateful for your support. Today, we're excited to present The Envious Girlfriend, a story that promises to keep you on the edge of your seat. Let's dive into this thrilling narrative together. Chapter 1. The Seed of Envy. It was a night of sparkling lights and clinking glasses, the kind of party that whispered promises of success to those in the right circles. Ava Clark gripped Caleb's arm tightly as they stepped into the grand ballroom of the Ellington Hotel. The opulence of the space was overwhelming. Crystal chandeliers casting a warm golden glow, marble floors reflecting the light like a shimmering lake, and tables draped in pristine white linen, adorned with arrangements of roses and orchids. Everyone who was anyone seemed to be there, basking in the glow of high society. Caleb leaned in, whispering in her ear, "Relax, Ava. You look amazing." She forced a smile. "Thanks. Just not used to places like this. You'll be fine. It's just a party." His tone was easy, comforting, as if he didn't notice the undercurrent of nerves and irritation in her voice. But it wasn't just a party. Ava had been preparing for this moment since Caleb told her about it weeks ago. It wasn't the glittering chandeliers or the designer gowns that unnerved her. It was the man they were about to meet. "Ava, you'll love Nathan," Caleb had said as they got ready earlier that evening. He stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his tie with practiced ease. "He's one of the smartest, most driven people I know. Honestly, I wouldn't have gotten through college without him." Ava pretended to focus on her makeup. "You talk about him like he walks on water." "Maybe he does," Caleb teased. "But seriously, he's been my best friend since forever. You'll see. He's got this way of making everyone feel like they belong. Nathan's good people. Good people." The phrase echoed in her mind as they walked into the ballroom, her heels clicking sharply against the marble. Ava doubted anyone who had it all, wealth, success, admiration, could truly be good people. There had to be cracks beneath the surface. No one was that perfect. The moment she spotted Nathan, her stomach twisted. He stood at the center of a small crowd, his laugh resonating across the room. His presence was magnetic. Ava found herself unwillingly drawn to his easy confidence, the way he gestured as he spoke, commanding attention without trying. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and impeccably dressed, his tailored suit fitting like a second skin. Everything about him screamed success. Caleb led her over, his face lighting up as Nathan turned toward them. "Nathan. Long time." Nathan's grin widened, and he clasped Caleb in a firm handshake that transitioned into a friendly hug. "Caleb, look at you, man. It's been too long." Caleb pulled back, motioning to Ava. "This is Ava, my girlfriend." Nathan's gaze shifted to her, and for a fleeting moment, Ava thought she saw a flicker of something in his expression. Disinterest, maybe even judgment, but it passed so quickly she couldn't be sure. He extended a hand. "A pleasure to meet you, Ava. Caleb's told me a lot about you." "Nice to meet you too," she replied, her voice steady even as her pulse quickened. His handshake was firm but impersonal, his smile practiced. It was as if he'd said those words to 100 other women in the same position. The conversation between Nathan and Caleb flowed effortlessly, filled with shared anecdotes and inside jokes that left Ava feeling like an outsider. She smiled and nodded when appropriate, but her thoughts were elsewhere. She couldn't ignore the way Caleb seemed to shrink in Nathan's presence, laughing a little too loudly at his jokes, agreeing with him too quickly. She sipped her champagne, her gaze darting around the room. Everywhere she looked, people were drawn to Nathan, their expressions a mix of admiration and envy. It wasn't just Caleb who idolized him, it was everyone. As the night wore on, Ava found herself watching Nathan more closely. His charm was undeniable, but so was his arrogance. The way he tilted his head when listening, as if he already knew what the other person was going to say. The way he laughed a little too loudly, as if to remind everyone he was the life of the party. And then there were the glances, the subtle but unmistakable way his eyes lingered on women as they passed by. When Nathan excused himself to mingle, Ava turned to Caleb. "He's confident." Caleb chuckled. "That's Nathan for you. He's always been like that. But he's a good guy." "Sure." Ava hesitated, swirling her champagne. "But don't you ever feel like, I don't know, like he overshadows you?" Caleb frowned, caught off guard. "Overshadows me?" "Well, Nathan's worked hard for everything he has. If anything, he inspires me." Inspires. The word sat heavy in Ava's chest, mingling with the resentment she couldn't shake. "I just think it's easy for someone like him to take up all the space in the room. Maybe without meaning to." Caleb's brow furrowed. "Ava, what's this about?" "Nothing," she said quickly, forcing a smile. "Forget I said anything." But Caleb's attention had already shifted, his gaze following Nathan across the room. Ava bit the inside of her cheek, feeling her irritation grow. By the time they left the party, Ava's mood was sour. Caleb, on the other hand, seemed energized, recounting moments from the evening with a boyish enthusiasm that only deepened her annoyance. "He's impressive, isn't he?" Caleb said as they drove home, his voice brimming with admiration. "Sure," Ava replied, staring out the window at the passing city lights. "But don't you think it's exhausting being around someone like that? Always the center of attention, always needing to be admired." Caleb glanced at her, puzzled. "Ava, where's this coming from? You barely know him." "Maybe I don't need to know him," she muttered under her breath. "What was that?" Caleb asked, his tone cautious. "Nothing." She waved it off. "I'm just tired." Later that night, as Caleb slept soundly beside her, Ava lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The party replayed in her mind, the way Nathan had commanded the room, the way Caleb had looked at him. Her insecurities gnawed at her, whispering insidious thoughts. She hated how Nathan made her feel, small, inadequate, invisible. But maybe, just maybe, Nathan wasn't as untouchable as he seemed. And maybe, with the right push, Caleb would finally see him for what he really was. A slow, cold smile spread across her face. "Nobody's perfect," she whispered into the darkness. And with that, the first threads of her plan began to weave themselves into existence. Chapter 2: Whispers of Doubt. The next morning, Ava sat at the small dining table in their apartment, sipping her coffee while scrolling through her phone. Sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating the stark contrast between the cozy familiarity of their home and the opulence of last night's party. Caleb was in the kitchen, whistling a tune as he prepared breakfast, a ritual that usually brought Ava comfort. Today, however, her mind was consumed with thoughts of Nathan. "Pancakes or eggs?" Caleb asked, glancing over his shoulder. "Eggs," Ava replied absently, her focus elsewhere. She scrolled through Caleb's social media account, her thumb pausing over a photo of him and Nathan from a few years back. They were standing on a mountaintop, both grinning like they had just conquered the world. Her chest tightened. Even in casual photos, Nathan seemed to overshadow Caleb, his confident stance and magnetic presence undeniable. "You okay?" Caleb's voice broke through her thoughts. She looked up, startled. "Yeah, I'm fine. You've been quiet since last night." He set a plate of scrambled eggs in front of her and sat across the table, his gaze searching hers. "Did something happen at the party?" Ava hesitated, weighing her words. She knew she couldn't come on too strong, not yet. Caleb trusted Nathan implicitly, and anything too overt would raise suspicion. Instead, she opted for a subtle approach, planting seeds rather than tearing down walls. "I just noticed something," she said, her tone carefully measured. Caleb raised an eyebrow. "What kind of something?" Well, Ava began, picking at her eggs with her fork. I couldn't help but notice how comfortable Nathan is being the center of attention. It's like he thrives on it. Caleb chuckled. That's just Nathan. He's always been like that. Maybe, Ava said, feigning a thoughtful expression. But don't you think it can come off as, I don't know, a bit self-centered? Caleb frowned, his fork pausing mid-air. Self-centered. I don't see it that way. He's just confident. Sure, but confidence can sometimes tip into arrogance, don't you think? Ava tilted her head, watching Caleb carefully. I mean, he barely acknowledged me last night. It felt like I was invisible to him. Caleb sighed. Ava, that's not fair. He was probably just caught up in everything. Nathan's always juggling a million things at once. Don't take it personally. I'm not, Ava said quickly, her voice softening. I just worry about you sometimes. You're so loyal to him, but do you think he values you as much as you value him? Caleb's expression shifted, a flicker of doubt crossing his face. It was fleeting, but Ava caught it. She felt a small surge of satisfaction, knowing she'd struck a nerve. Over the next few days, Ava continued her subtle campaign, dropping carefully crafted remarks whenever the opportunity arose. You work so hard, Caleb, she said one evening as they sat on the couch. I just hope Nathan appreciates everything you've done for him. What do you mean? Caleb asked, his brow furrowing. Well, didn't you say you helped him land that first big client back in the day? And now he's the one with all the glory. Caleb shrugged. I didn't do it for the glory. He's my friend. Of course, Ava said, leaning against his shoulder. You're a great friend. I just hope he doesn't take advantage of that. Another time, as Caleb was reviewing an email from Nathan about an upcoming business pitch, Ava leaned over his shoulder, reading along. Looks like he's relying on you for all the heavy lifting again, she remarked. Caleb shook his head. It's a team effort. Is it, though? Ava pressed gently. Or is it Nathan's effort with your support? There's a difference. Her words began to take root. Caleb started to notice things he hadn't before. Nathan's habit of interrupting him during conversations, the way Nathan always seemed to claim credit for their joint successes, and how his friend's praise often came with a backhanded compliment. It wasn't long before Caleb's trust in Nathan began to waver. The once unshakable bond between them now felt fragile, weighed down by the doubts Ava had skillfully planted. But Ava knew she couldn't stop there. Nathan was too strong, too charismatic, for a few whispers to bring him down. She needed something more, a way to turn Caleb's doubts into certainty. One afternoon, while Caleb was at work, Ava sat at the computer, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. She had been thinking about Nathan's reputation, the way people admired him without question. Surely there had to be something, some skeleton in his closet that would make Caleb see him in a different light. She started with a simple search, scrolling through articles and interviews about Nathan. The more she read, the more frustrated she became. His public image was spotless. But Ava wasn't one to give up easily. She delved deeper, combing through old forums, obscure social media posts, and anything else she could find. Finally, she stumbled upon something, a thread on a professional networking site discussing questionable business practices. One user mentioned a deal that had gone wrong, hinting at Nathan's involvement but offering no concrete details. Ava's lips curled into a smile. It wasn't much, but it was a start. That evening, as they sat down to dinner, Ava brought it up casually. I was reading about some business stuff today, she said, cutting into her steak. Apparently there's a lot of shady dealings in your industry. It's scary how some people will do anything to get ahead. Caleb looked up from his plate. Yeah, it can be cutthroat. Why do you ask? No reason, Ava said, shrugging. I just hope you're careful. Not everyone's as honest as you are. Caleb tilted his head, studying her. What are you getting at? Nothing, she said, her voice light. I just worry about you sometimes, that's all. But Caleb didn't look convinced. And as he returned to his meal, Ava felt a small thrill. The doubt was growing, and it was only a matter of time before it consumed him. Chapter 3, The First Move. Ava stood in the kitchen, her hands trembling slightly as she rinsed a coffee mug. The morning sunlight streamed through the window, but it did little to soothe her nerves. Her plan was moving forward, but it was no longer enough to plant seeds of doubt in Caleb's mind. If she wanted to succeed, she needed to act. She needed proof, something undeniable that would shatter Caleb's unwavering loyalty to Nathan. She wiped her hands on a dish towel and grabbed her phone, scrolling through her saved bookmarks. Her late-night sleuthing had uncovered a thread on a professional forum where a user, hiding behind anonymity, accused Nathan of using questionable tactics to secure a major deal. The details were vague, but Ava saw potential in the accusation. If she could embellish it, make it more damning, she could use it to turn Caleb against his best friend. Her heart raced as she composed an email using a new account she'd created under a fake name. Subject: Concern about your business partner. Dear Caleb, I hope this message finds you well. I'm reaching out because I believe in honesty and integrity in business, and I feel obligated to share some information that may concern you. Recently, I came across rumors involving Nathan Bennett and questionable practices during a deal with a company called Prescott Ventures. These rumors suggest that he used inside information to outbid competitors, which could potentially tarnish your company's reputation if investigated further. I hope you take this as an opportunity to look into the matter. It's important to ensure your partnerships are built on trust and integrity. Best regards. Concerned Associate. Ava reread the email several times, tweaking the language to strike the right balance between plausible and alarming. Satisfied, she hit send and leaned back in her chair, exhaling slowly. She knew Caleb would be home late that night, giving her time to prepare for the fallout. When Caleb finally walked through the door, his tie loosened and his face weary, Ava greeted him with a warm smile. Long day. The longest, he muttered, dropping his bag by the couch. We've got that Prescott pitch next week, and everyone's running on fumes. Ava's stomach flipped at the mention of Prescott Ventures. She forced herself to maintain a casual demeanor as she handed him a glass of water. Sounds stressful. I'm sure you'll nail it, though. I hope so. Caleb collapsed onto the couch, scrolling through his phone. Suddenly he froze, his brows furrowing. What's wrong? Ava asked, feigning concern. He didn't respond immediately, his eyes scanning the email Ava had sent earlier. Finally he looked up, confusion and worry etched across his face. I just got this weird email. It's about Nathan. Ava's pulse quickened. She sat beside him, peering over his shoulder. What does it say? He handed her the phone, and she pretended to read the email for the first time, her expression shifting from curiosity to alarm. Wow, she whispered. That's serious. Do you think it's true? Caleb shook his head, his jaw tightening. I don't know. Nathan's never mentioned anything like this, but it's not the kind of thing you'd advertise, is it? Ava placed a comforting hand on his arm. Maybe it's worth asking him about. If it's just a rumor, he'll clear it up. Caleb hesitated, the conflict evident in his eyes. I don't want to accuse him of something without proof. What if it's just some troll trying to stir up trouble? True, Ava said, choosing her words carefully. But if it's not, wouldn't you want to know before it becomes a bigger problem? Prescott Ventures is a big deal. If there's even a chance this could blow up, it's better to address it now. Caleb nodded slowly, her words sinking in. You're right. I'll talk to him tomorrow. The next day, Ava waited anxiously for Caleb to return from work. When he finally walked through the door, his face was a storm of conflicting emotions. Well, she asked, trying to sound casual. I talked to Nathan, Caleb said, dropping his bag on the floor. He ran a hand through his hair, exhaling sharply. He denied everything, of course. Said it was all baseless gossip. And do you believe him? Ava pressed gently. Caleb hesitated, sinking onto the couch. I want to, but I don't know. The way he reacted, it wasn't what I expected. He seemed defensive. Defensive how? Ava leaned in, her expression concerned. Just evasive. He kept saying things like, "You know me, Caleb," instead of giving me a straight answer. It didn't sit right. Ava placed a hand on his knee, her voice soft and steady. "Maybe he's hiding something. You've known him a long time, but sometimes people change when money and power get involved." Caleb sighed, burying his face in his hands. "This is a mess. If Nathan's lying, I don't know what that means for our partnership." Ava rubbed his back soothingly, hiding the triumph that bubbled beneath her calm exterior. "You'll figure it out," she said. "Just take it one step at a time." That night, as Caleb tossed and turned in bed, Ava lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Her plan was working, but it wasn't enough to plant doubt. She needed something concrete, something that would force Caleb to see Nathan for who he truly was, or at least who Ava wanted him to believe he was. In the glow of the moonlight streaming through the window, Ava's mind raced with possibilities. The game was far from over, and she was just getting started. Chapter 4. The cracks deepen. The morning air was heavy with tension. Caleb sat at the dining table, absent-mindedly stirring his coffee. His brow was furrowed, his thoughts miles away. Across from him, Ava watched him intently, hiding her satisfaction behind a mask of concern. She knew the seeds she had planted were beginning to grow, but she also knew that she couldn't let her guard down. Caleb was close to confronting the truth, or at least the version of it she was weaving. "Are you okay?" Ava asked softly, breaking the silence. Caleb looked up, startled. "Yeah, just thinking about Nathan." He hesitated, then nodded. "I can't get that email out of my head. And the way he reacted yesterday, it's not like him. He's usually so straightforward, but this time, it felt off." Ava reached across the table, placing her hand on his. "Maybe he's under a lot of pressure." Or maybe, she trailed off as though reluctant to say more. "Maybe what?" Caleb pressed. She sighed, feigning reluctance. "Maybe he's hiding something. You've always trusted him, and that's great, but sometimes the people closest to us aren't who we think they are." Caleb stared at her, her words hitting harder than she anticipated. "You really think he could have done something like this?" "I don't know," Ava said carefully. "But it wouldn't hurt to dig a little deeper, would it? Just to be sure." Later that day, Caleb left for work, his demeanor tense and distracted. Ava wasted no time. She grabbed her laptop and dove back into her research, determined to find more ammunition for her plan. She scoured obscure forums and social media posts, piecing together fragments of information that could be twisted to suit her narrative. It wasn't long before she found something, a comment thread buried in the depths of a finance blog. A user claimed that Nathan had leveraged insider information to outmaneuver a competitor during a major deal 2 years ago. The post didn't provide any concrete evidence, but Ava didn't need facts. She only needed doubt. She copied the details and began crafting a new piece of evidence. This time, it was a screenshot of the forum post, edited to include Nathan's name directly in the accusations. She ensured the language was ambiguous enough to seem plausible while still damning. Satisfied with her handiwork, Ava printed the image and slipped it into an envelope. She wrote Caleb's name on the front, leaving it on the counter where he would find it when he got home. When Caleb returned that evening, he looked more worn than ever. Ava greeted him with a warm smile, masking her anticipation. "Rough day?" she asked, handing him a glass of water. "You could say that," he muttered, collapsing onto the couch. As he sipped his water, his eyes landed on the envelope. "What's this?" "I don't know," Ava lied, feigning surprise. "It was here when I got home. Maybe it's from someone at work." Caleb frowned, setting his glass down and picking up the envelope. He tore it open, pulling out the printed screenshot. His expression darkened as he read the contents. "Are you kidding me?" he muttered, his voice laced with disbelief. "What is it?" Ava asked, sitting beside him and peering over his shoulder. "It's another accusation about Nathan," Caleb said, his grip tightening on the paper. "This one's about a deal he did 2 years ago. Apparently, he used insider information to screw over a competitor." Ava gasped, her eyes widening. That's serious. Do you think it's true? I don't know, Caleb said, shaking his head. But it's starting to feel like too much to ignore. First the email, now this. What if there's something to it? Ava placed a comforting hand on his arm. Maybe it's time to take a step back and really look at things. If Nathan's doing shady stuff, it could come back to hurt you. You need to protect yourself. Caleb nodded slowly, her words sinking in. You're right. I'll talk to him again. But this time, I'm not letting him dodge the questions. The next day, Caleb confronted Nathan in his office. The tension between them was palpable as Caleb laid the screenshot on Nathan's desk. What's this? Nathan asked, his voice sharp. That's what I want to know, Caleb replied, his tone equally firm. People are saying you used insider information to close that Prescott deal. Is it true? Nathan's jaw tightened as he scanned the document. This is ridiculous. It's a baseless accusation from some nobody on the internet. Maybe, Caleb said, crossing his arms. But it's not the first time I've heard something like this. Why are these rumors popping up now? Nathan leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. You've known me for years, Caleb. You really think I'd risk everything I've built by doing something illegal? I don't know what to think, Caleb admitted. But I can't ignore this. If there's any truth to it, I need to know. Nathan's eyes narrowed, a flicker of anger breaking through his calm exterior. Are you seriously questioning my integrity because of some anonymous post? This is exactly what people like that want, to sow doubt and ruin reputations. Caleb hesitated, his resolve wavering. Nathan's indignation was convincing, but the doubt planted by Ava refused to fade. Maybe you're right, Caleb said finally. But if you've got nothing to hide, you won't mind me looking into it. Nathan's expression hardened. Do what you have to do. But don't expect our friendship to survive if you keep questioning my loyalty. That evening, Caleb recounted the confrontation to Ava, his frustration evident. He got defensive again, Caleb said, pacing the living room. I don't know if that's because he's hiding something or because he's genuinely angry I'm questioning him. Ava watched him carefully, her expression sympathetic. Maybe it's both, she said. Sometimes people lash out when they're cornered. If he's innocent, he wouldn't be so defensive. Caleb stopped pacing, his shoulders slumping. I don't know what to do, Ava. He's my best friend, but this whole thing feels wrong. Ava stood and wrapped her arms around him, her voice soft and reassuring. You'll figure it out. Just trust your instincts. As Caleb hugged her tightly, Ava allowed herself a small, satisfied smile over his shoulder. The cracks in their friendship were deepening, and soon they would be impossible to repair. Chapter 5. A web of lies. The air in the apartment was thick with tension. Caleb sat hunched over his laptop at the kitchen table, his face illuminated by the screen's pale glow. His eyes were bloodshot, evidence of a restless night spent diving into every corner of the internet for anything that could prove or disprove the accusations against Nathan. Across the room, Ava pretended to scroll through her phone, her attention fully on Caleb. She could sense the growing storm of doubt and frustration within him, and she knew she needed to seize this moment to tighten her grip on the narrative. Any luck? She asked softly, breaking the silence. Caleb exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. Whoa. Just more rumors and half-truths. It's like trying to piece together a puzzle with missing pieces. Maybe you're looking in the wrong places, Ava suggested. Have you thought about talking to someone who's worked with Nathan? Someone who might know more? Caleb frowned. Like who? Ava leaned forward, feigning hesitation. Didn't you mention that guy? What's his name? Eric. You said he used to work with Nathan before he left the company. Maybe he'd have some insight. Caleb hesitated, the idea clearly making him uncomfortable. I don't know. It feels underhanded going behind Nathan's back like that. But you need answers, Ava pressed gently. And if Nathan has nothing to hide, then there's no harm in asking questions, right? He didn't respond immediately. His expression conflicted. Finally he nodded. I guess it couldn't hurt to reach out. The next day, Caleb arranged a meeting with Eric, an ex-colleague who had worked closely with Nathan during the early days of their company. They met at a small coffee shop, the air between them tense as Caleb explained the situation. I'm not trying to stir up trouble, Caleb said, his voice low. I just need to know if there's any truth to these rumors. Have you ever seen Nathan do anything questionable? Eric leaned back in his chair, his expression guarded. Look, Nathan's a smart guy. He knows how to play the game, but he also knows how to cover his tracks. That said, he hesitated, glancing around the cafe before lowering his voice. There were whispers back when we worked on the Prescott deal. Nothing concrete, but some of the numbers didn't add up. A few people thought he might have had inside information, but no one could prove it. Caleb's stomach churned. Why didn't anyone say anything? Because Nathan has a way of making problems disappear, Eric said, his tone bitter. And because no one wanted to cross him. He's the kind of guy who always lands on his feet, no matter what. Caleb sat back, the weight of Eric's words settling over him. It wasn't proof, but it was enough to fan the flames of doubt already burning within him. When Caleb returned home that evening, Ava was waiting for him, her expression carefully neutral. How did it go? She asked, handing him a glass of water. Caleb shook his head, sinking onto the couch. Eric didn't have anything solid, but he confirmed that there were rumors about the Prescott deal. Apparently, some people thought Nathan was using insider information. Ava's eyes widened, her expression a mix of shock and concern. That's serious. What are you going to do? I don't know, Caleb admitted. I feel like I'm stuck. If I confront Nathan again, he'll just deny everything. But if I let it go and it turns out to be true... He trailed off, the weight of the decision pressing down on him. Ava placed a hand on his knee, her voice soft and reassuring. You're doing the right thing by looking into this. If Nathan's hiding something, it's better to know now than later. Caleb nodded, her words offering a sliver of comfort. But deep down, he knew that no matter what he found, his relationship with Nathan would never be the same. The following week, Ava's plan reached a new level of complexity. She created another email account, this time posing as an anonymous whistleblower within Nathan's company. She sent Caleb an email containing fabricated details about Nathan's alleged activities, complete with vague references to insider trading and unethical business practices. The email was written with precision, designed to appear credible while remaining ambiguous enough to avoid direct scrutiny. Ava knew that Caleb's growing paranoia would do the rest. When Caleb received the email, his reaction was immediate. I got another email, he told Ava, pacing the living room. This one claims to be from someone inside Nathan's company. What does it say? Ava asked, her voice calm despite the excitement bubbling beneath the surface. Caleb read the email aloud, his voice tight with tension. This is getting out of hand, he said, sinking onto the couch. If this is true, I don't even know what to think anymore. Ava sat beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. Maybe it's time to take this to someone who can help. A lawyer or even a private investigator. If these accusations are false, Nathan has nothing to worry about. But if they're true, she let the sentence hang, her meaning clear. Caleb nodded, her words sinking in. You're right. I need to know the truth, one way or another. That night, as Caleb made plans to hire an investigator, Ava retreated to the bedroom, a triumphant smile spreading across her face. Her web of lies had grown larger, ensnaring Caleb in its threads. But she knew she couldn't stop now. The stakes were higher than ever, and the final pieces of her plan were falling into place. As she lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, Ava whispered to herself, almost there. The game was far from over, but victory was finally within reach. Chapter 6. The Breaking Point. Caleb sat at the dining table, staring at his phone, the investigator's business card clutched in his hand. The past week had been a blur of anxiety, sleepless nights, and a relentless search for clarity. Every time he tried to focus on work, the weight of the accusations against Nathan loomed over him. Ava's soft footsteps broke through his haze as she entered the room, carrying 2 mugs of coffee. "You look exhausted," she said, placing a mug in front of him and sitting across the table. "I am," Caleb admitted, rubbing his temples. "This whole thing with Nathan is consuming me. Have you decided what you're going to do?" Ava asked, her tone gentle but probing. He sighed. "I contacted the investigator. We're meeting tomorrow. I can't shake the feeling that something's off. And if Nathan is involved in anything shady, I need to know." Ava reached across the table, placing her hand over his. "You're doing the right thing, Caleb. It's hard, but it's better to know the truth than to live in doubt." Her words were laced with sincerity, but beneath the surface, Ava felt a thrill of satisfaction. The plan was unfolding perfectly, and Caleb was walking straight into the trap she had so carefully set. The following afternoon, Caleb met with a private investigator, a grizzled man named Marcus Wolfe who had an air of quiet confidence. They sat in a dimly lit office, papers and files scattered across the desk between them. "What can I do for you, Mr. Bennett?" Wolfe asked, leaning back in his chair. Caleb hesitated, then explained the situation: Nathan's questionable business practices, the accusations, and his growing doubts. "I need to know if there's any truth to these claims," Caleb said, his voice steady despite the unease churning inside him. Wolfe nodded, scribbling notes in a battered notebook. "I'll start digging. If there's something to find, I'll find it." As Caleb left the office, a mix of apprehension and relief settled over him. He was finally taking action, but the cost of the truth, whatever it turned out to be, hung heavily in the air. Days passed, each one dragging slower than the last. Caleb grew more distant, spending hours locked in his office or staring blankly at his laptop. Ava played the role of the supportive partner flawlessly, offering him comfort while subtly reinforcing his doubts. One evening, as they sat on the couch in silence, Caleb's phone buzzed. He grabbed it quickly, his heart pounding as he read the message. "It's Wolfe," he said, his voice tight. "He found something." "What did he say?" Ava asked, her pulse quickening. "He wants to meet tomorrow to go over his findings." Caleb set the phone down, running a hand through his hair. "This is it. I'm finally going to know the truth." Ava nodded, hiding the excitement bubbling beneath her calm exterior. "No matter what happens, I'm here for you." The next day, Caleb sat across from Wolfe in the investigator's office, the tension in the room palpable. Wolfe placed a file on the desk, sliding it toward Caleb. "I found some interesting information," Wolfe said, his tone measured. "There's no smoking gun, but there's enough to raise some serious questions." Caleb opened the file, his eyes scanning the documents inside. Emails, financial records, and notes from interviews painted a picture of a man who wasn't as squeaky clean as he appeared. "There are patterns here," Wolfe continued. "Unusual financial movements, insider connections during key deals, and some discrepancies in his company's records. It's not definitive proof of wrongdoing, but it's suspicious." Caleb's hands trembled as he closed the file. "Thank you, Mr. Wolfe." "Be careful, Mr. Bennett," Wolfe warned. "If Nathan's involved in anything shady, he won't take kindly to being exposed." When Caleb returned home that evening, Ava was waiting for him, her expression carefully composed. "Well?" she asked as he walked through the door. "He found something," Caleb said, dropping the file onto the coffee table. "It's not concrete, but it's enough to confirm my worst fears. Nathan's not who I thought he was." Ava sat beside him, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. "I'm so sorry, Caleb. This must be so hard for you." "I don't know what to do," he admitted, his voice heavy with defeat. "If I confront him, it'll destroy our friendship. But if I stay silent, I'll never be able to trust him again." "You have to do what's right," Ava said softly. "For yourself and for your future." If Nathan's hiding something, he needs to be held accountable. Caleb nodded, her words sinking in. You're right. I need to talk to him. But this time I'm not backing down. The confrontation came the next day. Caleb met Nathan at a quiet bar, the air between them thick with unspoken tension. What's this about? Nathan asked, his tone wary. Caleb took a deep breath, placing the file on the table. I know about the Prescott deal, Nathan. And I know there's more you're not telling me. Nathan's eyes narrowed as he opened the file, scanning its contents. His jaw tightened, but he remained calm. You've been busy, he said, his voice icy. Don't do that, Caleb snapped. Don't act like this is nothing. I trusted you, Nathan. I've defended you to everyone, even when I started to have doubts. But now, I don't even know who you are. Nathan leaned back, his expression hard. You don't know what you're talking about, Caleb. These so-called findings don't prove anything. They prove enough, Caleb said. And if you can't explain yourself, I don't see how we can move forward. Nathan's gaze darkened, his calm facade slipping. You're making a mistake, he said quietly. You don't want to go down this road. Maybe not, Caleb said, standing. But I can't ignore this anymore. As Caleb walked out of the bar, his heart felt heavy with betrayal. He had always considered Nathan a brother, but now their friendship lay in ruins. When he returned home, Ava was waiting for him, her arms open as he collapsed into her embrace. It's over, he whispered. I can't trust him anymore. Ava held him close, a triumphant smile hidden in the shadows. The breaking point had been reached, and Nathan was finally out of the picture. Chapter 7, A Dangerous Game. The silence between Caleb and Nathan stretched like a taut rope ready to snap. Days had passed since their confrontation, but the fallout rippled through Caleb's life, leaving him more isolated and unsure than ever. At work, the atmosphere had shifted. Nathan's easy camaraderie was replaced with cold detachment. Caleb felt eyes on him wherever he went, whispers that ceased when he entered a room. At home, Ava continued her role as his confidant and rock. She offered soft words of encouragement, cooking his favorite meals and reassuring him that he'd done the right thing. But Caleb's internal conflict grew heavier by the day. Losing Nathan, his best friend and closest ally, felt like losing a part of himself. You can't keep blaming yourself, Ava said one evening as they sat on the couch. You didn't create this situation, Nathan did. He's the one who broke your trust. I know, Caleb said, his voice weary. But I keep wondering if I should have handled it differently. Maybe I should have given him another chance to explain. Ava placed a hand on his arm, her gaze steady. You did give him a chance. He chose to be evasive. You made the only choice you could. Her words were like a balm to Caleb's frayed nerves, but even as he nodded in agreement, a small voice in the back of his mind whispered doubts he couldn't shake. The next day, Caleb's resolve was tested further when he received an email from Nathan. The subject line was simple: we need to talk. Caleb stared at the message for a long time before opening it. Philip, I know things between us have gotten messy, but this can't be how it ends. I'm asking you, no, I'm begging you to meet with me one more time. There's more to this story than you realize, and if you'll just hear me out, I think you'll understand. You're my best friend. I don't want to lose that. Nathan. The sincerity in the email shook Caleb. He could almost hear Nathan's voice, the desperation behind the words. His fingers hovered over the keyboard, torn between replying and deleting the message altogether. When Ava returned home that evening, Caleb showed her the email. What do you think? He asked, his voice uncertain. Ava read the message, her expression carefully neutral. He's trying to manipulate you, she said after a moment. He knows you're vulnerable right now, and he's using that to his advantage. But what if he's telling the truth? Caleb asked. What if there's something I don't know? Ava hesitated, sensing his wavering resolve. She leaned in, her voice firm but empathetic. Caleb, you've seen the evidence. You've heard what others have said about him. Don't let him pull you back in with empty promises. You deserve better than this. Her words struck a chord, and Caleb nodded slowly. You're right. I can't let him manipulate me anymore. Determined to take control of the situation, Caleb decided to respond to Nathan's email, but on his own terms. He agreed to meet, but only in a neutral public location where he could maintain some semblance of power. The meeting took place at a quiet cafe on the edge of town. Nathan was already there when Caleb arrived, his posture tense as he nursed a cup of coffee. Thanks for coming, Nathan said, his voice low. Caleb nodded, sitting across from him. This is your chance to explain. Make it count. Nathan leaned forward, his expression earnest. Look, I know how this looks. I know you have every reason to doubt me right now. But I swear to you, Caleb, I haven't done anything illegal. Then explain the Prescott deal, Caleb said, his voice steady. Explain the financial discrepancies, the insider information. If you're innocent, prove it. Nathan sighed, rubbing his temples. There were shortcuts taken. I won't deny that. But it wasn't illegal. It was strategic. In this industry, everyone bends the rules. I just bent them a little more. Caleb's stomach turned. That's not the same as innocence, Nathan. You betrayed the trust of everyone who worked with you, including me. I didn't betray you, Nathan said sharply. I did what I had to do to keep the company afloat. You don't know the pressure I was under. And you didn't think I deserved to know. Caleb shot back. We've built everything together, and you kept me in the dark while you played your games. Nathan's eyes softened, his voice quieter now. You're right. I should have told you. But I didn't because I knew you'd never understand. You're too honest, Caleb. That's one of the things I've always admired about you. But it's also why I couldn't risk telling you. Caleb leaned back, his heart heavy with conflicting emotions. Nathan's explanation didn't absolve him, but it added a layer of complexity to the betrayal. When Caleb returned home, Ava was waiting for him, her expression tense. How did it go? She asked. He admitted to cutting corners, Caleb said, sinking onto the couch. He says it wasn't illegal, just unethical. And you believe him? Ava asked, her tone carefully measured. I don't know, Caleb admitted. He seemed sincere, but I can't trust my judgment anymore. Not after everything that's happened. Ava sat beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. Caleb, you've done everything you can. If Nathan won't take responsibility for his actions, that's on him, not you. Her words brought Caleb a measure of comfort, but the conflict within him remained unresolved. That night, as Caleb slept fitfully, Ava sat at the kitchen table, her mind racing. The cracks in Caleb's trust were deepening, but Nathan's persistence was a threat she couldn't ignore. If she wanted to ensure her plan's success, she needed to eliminate Nathan as a factor entirely. Ava's fingers hovered over her phone, a new scheme already forming in her mind. The game had reached a dangerous new level, and she was prepared to do whatever it took to win. Chapter 8. The Final Betrayal. Ava's plan was spiraling into something darker than she had anticipated. As she sat alone in the dimly lit kitchen that night, her mind raced with possibilities. Nathan's persistence was a problem she hadn't fully accounted for. Despite Caleb's doubts, Nathan still held a piece of his trust, and that made him a threat. If Ava wanted complete control, she needed to sever the bond between them once and for all. She stared at her phone, her fingers trembling as she crafted the message that would set her plan in motion. It was risky, but Ava had learned that risk was a necessary part of manipulation. To Nathan Bennett. Subject: urgent, we need to talk. Nathan. I've been watching this situation unfold, and I think it's time we clear the air. Caleb has been struggling, and I know you're just trying to fix things, but there's something you should know. Caleb has been talking to a private investigator, and he's considering going to the authorities with what they've found. I thought you deserved a heads up. Maybe you can get ahead of this before it gets worse. Ava. She read the email twice before sending it. It was a delicate balance, just enough truth to be plausible, just enough fiction to spark chaos. If Nathan took the bait, he'd play right into her hands. The next morning, Caleb was quieter than usual, his face a mask of exhaustion. Ava prepared breakfast, her movements calm and deliberate as she watched him out of the corner of her eye. "You didn't sleep well," she said softly, setting a plate of eggs in front of him. "Can't stop thinking about Nathan," he admitted, running a hand through his hair. "Every time I think I've made up my mind, something pulls me back." Ava sat across from him, her expression compassionate. "It's hard to let go of someone you've trusted for so long. But trust is a two-way street, Caleb. If Nathan was willing to cut corners and keep you in the dark, he didn't value you the way you valued him." Caleb sighed, nodding slowly. "You're right. I know you're right." But his tone lacked conviction, and Ava knew she had to push harder. By mid-afternoon, her email had worked. Nathan called Caleb, his voice frantic. "We need to meet," Nathan said without preamble. "There's something you need to know." "What is it now, Nathan?" Caleb asked, weariness creeping into his voice. "Not over the phone," Nathan insisted. "Meet me at my office. It's important." Caleb hesitated but agreed, hanging up with a heavy sigh. Ava watched him prepare to leave, her heart pounding. She could see the conflict in his every movement, the tension in his shoulders. "Be careful," she said as he kissed her goodbye. "I will," he promised, though his voice was hollow. At Nathan's office, the confrontation was immediate. Nathan leaned against his desk, his arms crossed and his expression grim. "Why is Ava emailing me about you hiring an investigator?" Nathan demanded. Caleb froze, his mind racing. "What are you talking about?" Nathan pulled out his phone, showing Caleb the email. "She says you're planning to go to the authorities. Is it true?" Caleb's blood ran cold as he read the message. His first instinct was to deny it, but the look in Nathan's eyes stopped him. This wasn't just about the email. It was about everything that had been brewing between them for weeks. "Yeah," Caleb said finally, his voice low. "I hired an investigator. I needed to know the truth." Nathan laughed bitterly, shaking his head. "And you couldn't just ask me. After everything we've been through, you went behind my back." "You weren't exactly forthcoming, Nathan," Caleb shot back. "And now I find out Ava's been talking to you too. What the hell is going on?" Nathan's expression darkened. "You tell me. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like your girlfriend's playing both of us." Caleb recoiled as if struck. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying Ava has been feeding you lies and stirring the pot. She's the one who sent that email. She's the one who's been whispering doubts in your ear. And now she's trying to pit us against each other." Caleb's mind raced, his world spinning. Could it be true? Could Ava, the woman he trusted and loved, be manipulating him this whole time? When Caleb returned home that evening, Ava was waiting for him, her expression carefully composed. "How did it go?" she asked, her voice steady despite the growing tension in the room. Caleb didn't answer immediately. He dropped his bag by the door and stared at her, his eyes filled with a mix of anger and confusion. "Why did you email Nathan?" he asked finally, his voice cold. Ava's heart skipped a beat, but she recovered quickly. "What are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb, Ava. He showed me the email." "Why would you tell him about the investigator?" "I was trying to help," Ava said, her voice rising. "I thought he deserved to know what was happening. I didn't think it would blow up like this." "Help?" Caleb's voice was incredulous. "You've been feeding me doubts about him for weeks, and now you're feeding him information about me? Whose side are you on?" "I'm on your side," Ava insisted, her voice cracking. "I've been trying to protect you from him. He's dangerous, Caleb. Can't you see that?" "I don't know what to see anymore," Caleb said, his voice breaking. "I don't know who to trust." That night, Caleb slept on the couch, leaving Ava alone in their bedroom. For the first time since her plan began, Ava felt the weight of her actions pressing down on her. She had played a dangerous game, and now the pieces were falling apart. But as she lay awake, Her mind churned with new strategies. The game wasn't over yet, and Ava wasn't about to lose. Chapter 9, Aftermath. The morning sun filtered through the curtains, casting long shadows across the living room where Caleb lay on the couch. His body was stiff, his sleep restless, and his mind a battlefield of conflicting emotions. The events of the past few weeks had unraveled everything he thought he knew, about Nathan, about Ava, and about himself. In the kitchen, Ava moved quietly, her every action deliberate as she prepared breakfast. The clatter of dishes broke the silence, but the tension in the air was palpable. She glanced at Caleb, her heart pounding. The cracks in her plan had become gaping chasms, and for the first time, she wasn't sure if she could regain control. "Good morning," she said softly, setting a cup of coffee on the table. Caleb sat up, rubbing his temples. "Morning," he muttered, his voice devoid of emotion. They ate in silence, the weight of unspoken words pressing down on them. Finally, Caleb pushed his plate away and looked at her. "We need to talk," he said, his tone measured but firm. Ava's chest tightened. "About what?" "About everything," Caleb said. "Nathan, the investigator, the email you sent. All of it." Ava forced a calm expression, though her hands trembled under the table. "I told you I was trying to help. I didn't mean to make things worse." "Didn't you?" Caleb leaned forward, his eyes piercing. "You've been whispering doubts about Nathan into my ear for weeks, feeding me just enough to make me question everything. And then you go behind my back and email him, stirring things up even more. Why, Ava? Why would you do that?" Ava hesitated, her mind racing for a plausible explanation. "Because I was scared, Caleb," she said, her voice cracking. "I saw what he was doing to you, how he was manipulating you, using you, and I couldn't just sit by and watch it happen. I thought if I could get him to back off, it would make things easier for you." Caleb stared at her, his expression unreadable. "Easier for me or easier for you? What's that supposed to mean?" Ava's voice rose defensively. "It means I'm starting to think this isn't about Nathan at all," Caleb said. "This is about you. Your jealousy, your need to control everything around you. You wanted me to turn on Nathan because you couldn't stand the fact that he mattered to me." Ava's breath caught in her throat. "That's not true. I was trying to protect you." "Were you?" Caleb's voice was calm but laced with steel. "Or were you just trying to tear down the one person you saw as competition for my attention?" The words hit Ava like a blow, and for a moment she couldn't speak. She had spent weeks constructing an intricate web of manipulation, but now it was unraveling faster than she could repair it. That evening, Caleb left the apartment without a word, leaving Ava alone with her thoughts. She paced the living room, her mind racing. She had underestimated Nathan's influence, underestimated Caleb's ability to see through her lies. But she wasn't ready to give up. There was one thing Ava excelled at, it was adapting. She picked up her phone and scrolled through her contacts until she found Nathan's number. Taking a deep breath, she pressed call. He answered on the second ring, his voice wary. "Ava, we need to talk," she said, her tone firm. "I'm not interested," Nathan replied. "You should be," Ava said. "Because this isn't over. Caleb's still doubting you, and if you want to save what's left of your friendship, you'll listen to me." There was a long pause before Nathan sighed. "Fine. Meet me at the coffee shop on Main Street. 1 hour. When Ava arrived, Nathan was already there, his expression cold as he watched her approach. "You've got 5 minutes," he said as she sat down. Ava folded her hands on the table, her demeanor calm but calculated. "I know we don't like each other, Nathan. But we both care about Caleb, and right now, he's caught in the middle of a mess neither of us wants." "And whose fault is that?" Nathan asked, his tone sharp. "I'll admit I've made mistakes," Ava said, choosing her words carefully. "I let my jealousy get the better of me. But Caleb's loyalty to you is tearing him apart, and if you care about him at all, you'll walk away." Nathan narrowed his eyes. "Walk away?" "Yes," Ava said. "Leave the company, give him space, and let him rebuild without you casting a shadow over everything he does. Nathan leaned back, crossing his arms. You really think I'm the problem here? I think you're a distraction, Ava said bluntly. Caleb can't move forward while he's constantly looking back at you. Nathan's jaw tightened, but he didn't respond immediately. Finally he stood. You don't know Caleb as well as you think you do, Ava. And if you think manipulating him into pushing me out of his life will make you the center of his world, you're wrong. You've already lost. He walked out without another word, leaving Ava sitting alone at the table. When Caleb returned home that night, Ava was waiting for him, her expression composed. Where were you? She asked. Thinking, Caleb replied, his voice distant. About us. About everything, he said. Nathan, me. I need some time, Ava. I need to figure out what I want, who I can trust. Ava's heart sank, but she nodded, hiding her panic behind a mask of understanding. Take all the time you need. I'll be here when you're ready. But as Caleb walked away, Ava felt the weight of her own actions pressing down on her. The web of lies she had spun had ensnared everyone, including herself, and now there was no way out.